that's brilliant. And
And
when you
it's
can
life
show
changing.
that to people, it's so powerful.
Oh, it
Yes.
is. It's life changing. Like I have stories time and time again. People said to me, I couldn't breathe. You actually helped me breathe again.
Welcome to the Timbits and Tacos Real Estate Podcast with me, Wendy Pauls, and my good friend and fellow agent, Rick Parks. You guys, I am really excited about our show today. You're actually our first guest on the show, Tracy. So this is Tracy Valko. I will give you an opportunity to talk about your business, and we'll get into that sort of thing. But I know you're a really hardworking woman. I want to know what you do in your downtime.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't have very much
Do you have any downtime?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I have, as you know, Wendy, I've got two children and they both still live at home, right? So 27 and 21. And I do a lot with them. Like on my free time, I spend as much time as I can with my children. I'm a big family person, big into golf, believe it or not.
Okay.
And so as a family, we
Come
do.
to Cabo.
Oh, I will. 100%, Rick. Absolutely. So I've kind of picked that up a little bit more this summer, but I've got horses, right? So my daughter and I, yeah, she rides. I have them because I've always loved horses. So when any opportunity I get, I go to the barn. It gets really relaxing. They're very angelic. It just gives me a lot of calm and peace, and I enjoy watching them grow up, right? So yeah, that's my hobbies.
Very cool.
So I was going to ask you if you're more of a warm weather or cool weather person. I suspect by the things that you've mentioned, you're a warm weather person.
I am. I love warm weather. Like there's no doubt. But you know what? I do like the cold. Like, I mean, I like being at home and seeing the snowfall. I'm not one to like, I don't ski anymore, but I do like going for walks and that. But I'm more of a warm person. Like, going to Cabo or any hot place like that is definitely, my go-to, right? And I've got so many activities we do outside, right? So I like the hot weather, right? Everyone does. Come on.
Have you been to Cabo before?
I have actually. I was in
Okay.
Cabo about 6 years ago. A girlfriend of mine went for a week. Absolutely loved it. Like it was just
It has changed incredibly.
really,
The growth rate here is nuts. So
I
you
can
need to come
imagine.
again and see all the new stuff.
Well, you're gonna have to take me on tour, Rick. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a mutual friend of ours, my friend Caroline Harvey, right? We were just there, visited with Rick, and we got to tour a $6 million cliffside property.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. So
Amazing.
the weather was fantastic. Some of the real estate opportunities there are fantastic. So we'll get into some of that. And
Yeah,
that's part of why I wanted to, why we wanted to have you on the show.
absolutely. Yeah.
So not everybody, I mean, lots of people in this area know who you are, but not everybody knows who you are. So tell us a little bit about Valko Financial, kind of what services you offer, but also I don't think everyone understands the difference between what you do and if they just go see like a mortgage rep at their bank.
Yeah.
So if you can just take that big question and go.
Yeah, thanks so much, Wendy. So yes, Valko Financial. I've been doing the mortgage business for the last 26 years, right? So mortgage brokering is very different than the bank side of business. I did come from the bank side, so I've actually been in the financial industry for like 35 years. I should say 52, because I'm 52 years old, because my parents were in the banking industry. I grew up in it, so I might as well have been in it, since I was born. But I understand the banking side very much so. And, making the shift to the broker space, the big aha moment for me was because I wanted to give people options and choices, right? So not having just one lane to be able to look at their financial, portfolio and what their short and long-term goals were and just giving them one option. I wanted to give that umbrella. And when I was introduced into the broker space, it was like this big aha went off in my mind. And I'm very entrepreneurial. So I thought, what a great way to start my own business, but also do what I love, which is be with people, right? And give them options and choices and give them a better perspective on financing, but a lot of solutions, right? And be able to build their wealth through real estate. And that's what we do, right? So, I'm very proud. Valko Financial, we're fully licensed across Canada, which is great. So we're helping people move from province to province if they want to, and we've seen a lot of people do that. I really pride our agents, our staffing on the fact that, I always say we're not in the mortgage business, we're in the people business, right? It's all about relationships. It's really listening.
I absolutely love that, Tracy. That's fantastic. Love to
Yeah,
hear that.
thank you. Yeah, but it's true, right? I think all three of us can say that,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
We're really, it's all about relationships of people. I've done many speaking engagements, as you know, Wendy, I love to speak. It's just where my go-to is. And what I say to people is when I, was sitting with clients, I would spend the first half an hour just getting to know them as a person. Like, what is it that makes them thrive every day? Like, what is it that their goals want to be, not just for themselves, but for their family? Like, what's their purpose?
Yeah.
And then what are they struggling with? Right? Because when you can relate to someone and understand what they're struggling with, then you can find a way to be able to help them. And a lot of times helping them isn't just like on our end, giving them a rate. It's like giving them a safe place to talk about finances. Even from an educational perspective, most people don't really understand what they can do with their home, with their finances to leverage it and get it into a better position for them of strength for their finances. I mean, I'm in the mortgage business, but I always talk about, eventually people being mortgage free, right? But financially freedom. And what's financially freedom look like? A lot of times it's multiple properties, it's leveraging properties, it's be able to build wealth. I mean, we can build wealth more based on buying properties than any other type of outlet that's out there right now. GICs, RSPs, Bitcoin, that could come and go in a day, right? Real estate time and time again has proved to be foundationally strong, right? So that's how I built it. And, we've got over 70 agents in the brokerage and right now. And, we're just continue to grow that mindset, that coaching, that belief, and provide people solutions and strategies. And I go out of speaking as much as I can to be able to educate, realtors, to educate referral partners, to educate as many people, clients, women, very much into women, resilience and leadership, and just make a place a different place so people can really soar. Because I think nowadays, I think
Real
nowadays,
life.
yeah, exactly,
It's on
right.
my end. Don't worry.
And no worries. I think nowadays a lot of people feel like they don't have opportunity. And I think we need to change that and show people there is a lot of opportunity out there right now. And there's a lot of opportunity right now in the Canadian landscape to purchase real estate, but also be able to leverage it and purchase properties such as in Cabo or any other place that they want to desire to go to. And the reality is there, right? We just have to be able to showcase that to people.
Yes.
So
Go ahead, Rick.
Then Tracy, let's walk through a case study
Sure.
and kind of give it an idea and say, okay, let's say you have a client come to you. They have a $1.5 million home sitting in Waterloo,
Yeah.
and they have $400,000 remaining on their mortgage. They bought it 10 years ago. Those are fairly realistic numbers, I think, for Waterloo. That'd be very typical, maybe a little higher. And they come to you and say, I know, and they come to you and say, hey, we just came back from Cabo. We love Cabo. We want to buy a place in Cabo. How do we do that?
Yeah, exactly. And I've had a lot of that, we've had a lot of clients come to us, and especially I found over, COVID, right? COVID gave people a lot of opportunity to maybe look at, different places to be able to have, a place for them to vacation, a permanent place, right? And be able to use it then as an investment. So what we do is, if we have people come to us looking at those options, we again will look at the properties that they currently own. So let's just say, to your example, they have an owner occupied property worth like 1.5 million. Let's say we get that appraised, right? So we have to get the value appraised to make sure that value is consistent to what they're anticipating. Because a lot of clients, what they think it is, it might actually be more or less, right? Just depending on where the market is, right?
It's rarely less. Come on.
Yeah, right. But you know what? I have seen it. Like there's people that, have had a mortgage for a very long time, have just renewed and never looked at leveraging their property and don't really understand their value because they never looked at selling it, right? So what they don't know where values are at, right? So There is some cases like that, but again, getting the property appraised. And then there's programs out there. Now, depending on the market we're in and interest rates, will depend on the program that we recommend. But there is programs out there where we can take a look at their existing mortgage. Let's say it's 400,000, and we can look at restructuring that mortgage. It's called refinancing. So we're pulling out equity in the existing property that they have, right? So if it's 1.5 that the property's worth, they've got $400,000 of a mortgage. They've got like $1.1 million basically of equity. Now we can't pull out the full amount because we can't go up to 100% financing, but we can from a refinance perspective, as long as the clients can qualify based on their income, based on their credit, what their overall application and strength of the financing is, we can go up to 80% of the value of the home minus the existing mortgage amount, right? So, depending on, let's say they're buying in Cabo, and I mean, Rick, you have to tell me, right? If they're looking at a property, for 400,000, let's say we pulled out 400,000. So their new mortgage amount would be 800,000, right? We pulled out 400, they qualified up to a maximum of 800,000, let's say. 400,000, they have cash now that they can go to Cabo, let's say, and be able to purchase a property. What would that look like there, right?
And is that a true mortgage, or is that a home equity line of credit? Or
So
can
there's
they actually do it as a pull-out mortgage? They can apply it as a mortgage and take the extra $400,000 cash and spend it anywhere they want.
So there's a couple of ways that we can do it. So and again, going back to what I was talking about, is depending on where the market is in rates. Now, right now in today's market, bank prime is very high. It's 6.7%. So there's a couple of products out there where the client can have their existing mortgage at, let's say, that 400,000. And if we're looking to pull out an additional 400,000, we can actually put that on a line of credit. So it's an all-in-one mortgage where they've got the fixed or variable rate mortgage, and then they've got a line of credit. Now, a line of credit is based on bank prime. So the payments would fluctuate depending if bank prime goes up or down. Now, sometimes there's a discount on that bank prime. It's depending on where the market is. Now, with inflation right now, we're not looking at big discounts on a line of credit right now, right? So at most, you're probably looking at a half a point. So you'd be sitting at about 6.2, which is pretty high on a line of credit.
Right.
Now, the advantages on a line of credit is you don't have to pull out all that money at once. So you're not paying interest on it right away unless you pull out that money. So, if the clients pull out, let's say 200,000 because they want to put a deposit on a property first before they close on it, they're only paying on that 200,000 that they pull out on a line of credit, and it's based on interest only payments, which are very minimal. It's just based on bank prime. So you're not paying off any principal, you're paying off just the interest, but you have the option to increase your payments as high as you want. So you could pay off the 200,000 in 1 month. You could pay $2,000 a month, right? Depending on where your budget is. So it's very flexible, the line of credit, but in this time and day, right now, it's a very expensive way to do it. Where if we looked at, what I was talking about, which is called refinancing, we're actually restructuring the mortgage, where we're taking the existing mortgage of 400,000, breaking it, doing a whole new mortgage into one. So it's 800,000 at where current rates are, because we're finding more competitiveness if we restructure the mortgage, let's say into like a 5-year fixed right now. And so the clients are actually given the money at time of closing. That 400,000 would go right into their account. So that way it would be in a situation, Rick, where they already found a property, they're looking to buy it, and the closing is going to happen very quite quickly. Because remember, they got to pay interest day one, right? It's a whole new mortgage payment, right?
So they're in a, forgive me, I bring this mic up. So they're in a scenario where now they are stepped in, they've basically doubled their payment on their current home. Depending what the rates were, but they're going to be, it's going to be something
very
like
close.
that. And they're coming down to Cabo, or even in this, let's say even they found a $400,000 condo they want to invest in Waterloo.
Yeah.
Which may not be possible. I don't know what the market is in Waterloo, but maybe they wouldn't want to live there. But anyways, that 400,000 now, they immediately start paying interest on that, but they can invest it immediately, and there's no protection on that. There's nothing that says, because it is secured by their personal home, they can spend it wherever they want.
Exactly. So it gives them a little bit more like leverage. Again, cash is king, right? So from a negotiating perspective, maybe not so much here in Ontario. Like I mean, cash is king, but we know properties are limited and values are where they're at. But in Cabo, it might be a little bit different in terms of negotiating if you do have cash. I mean, Rick, you could probably speak more on that.
We are a 90% cash market.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah, so there really
Right,
is
exactly.
we have buyers come all the time and say to us, we're paying cash. And we're like, so is everyone else. Big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that doesn't impress us. So
yeah,
it is an interesting kind of awakening for them to see that cash isn't king in this scenario because everybody here is basically paying cash.
yeah.
Mhm.
So
So
sorry, Wendy, go ahead.
that's okay. I was thinking what some people might be wondering is costs involved in your services.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great question, and we do get it time and time again. So, a lot of people have a misconception about brokers. They
Mhm.
think that brokers are the alternative in the worst case scenario. Banks you go to first because they give the best rates.
Uh-huh.
The client traditionally has AAA credit, very strong net worth, and brokers are for like the private space or like we're very fee driven,
Right.
and that's not the case at all. So I mean, here's the thing: we do have an umbrella of products, which is great. It gives people options and choices. We have the A space, which is the banks, lenders, financial institutions, credit unions. We have the alternative space, and the alternative space is for people, a lot of people that are self-employed because we use more bank statements than we use taxes, income tax. But it's also for people that have some credit issues. We can get them into the alternative space. A lot of people that can't prove income as much as what they need in the A space. And then we have the private spectrum, which has been increasing quite a bit. And it's because even people that are self-employed or entrepreneurs don't want to show a lot of paperwork. Like they just don't want to show everything under the sun and just want, or people may need it just for a quick
Mhm.
period of time, and a private's an easier way to go. So we have all those options. So from a fee perspective, we don't charge fees if we're dealing in the A space at all because we get paid from the lenders. Actually, all
Okay.
of these, like whether you're A, alternative space, or private, we do get paid from the lender. From the private space, we do charge a fee though
Mhm.
to the client because we don't get paid in that space from the lender, right? So we have to charge it to the client. And there's a lot of work that goes into privates because
Mhm.
from our end, and especially in my brokerage, we work out exit strategies. We provide education, a real financial road path to making sure that clients will able to get out of that private space, if not within the year, very soon, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't want
Mhm.
to be paying high interest rates for a long period of time.
Sure.
Yeah, I've often considered private money to be bridge money. And a
Yeah,
lot of times that have used it in that
yeah,
scenario where I have a client come to me and say, hey, we're $200,000 short and we
yeah,
can't get them financed through the bank under traditional means. So you take them into a high return or a high value private lender with the understanding that they're selling their business or they're selling their home or whatever they're doing, but they've got a bridge for this year or two before they can complete those other transactions.
yeah.
That's where, to me, private money becomes a really advantageous product to use.
It's a great product. There's so many ways to. I always say it's a band-aid solution,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For a short period of time, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and it's worked very well for a lot of people, right? And I'm seeing it more in time and time again, Rick, to believe like I have so many people that talk to us about the private space because they really don't want to show a lot of documents. Especially in the Canadian financial landscape, we've had 61 rule changes in 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like it's a lot. People don't understand how much we have to deal with on our end to be able to navigate people's financing. And so when we're talking to
Mhm.
clients, I mean, I have like this 26-step program of how much documents we need from clients, and everybody look at that and feel overwhelmed. But it's like, let's get your documents up front first so we can build that roadmap
Mhm.
to where your finances look for us, and then we're not going to have to worry about a lot of these documents going forward, right? It's just updating taxes and that as we build your portfolio. But it's a lot of work, and a lot of clients don't want to do that anymore. They rather go and pay the extra funds on the private space not to be able to show all that. So I do see a little bit of some shift there on that private space. But I also think that in Canada we're finding as values are going up and incomes aren't going up as high, people are looking at every way to be able to afford a home, right? They're looking
Mhm.
at, relatives coming in to maybe friends. Wendy, we've seen it, right? We've seen
Yep.
different scenarios of, where people are trying to build these finances together to be able to qualify, right? Because they're having such a hard time to be able to do it. And
Yeah.
that's why people that have mortgages and have homes for a long period of time in Canada are real gold mines right now, because values have gone up, right?
Mhm.
And the
Yes.
opportunity is there to build your wealth, because guess what? There's so many people that cannot qualify for homes, that you can either rent out properties or, like, buy an income property across the world that you could, Airbnb, right? And make a lot of money,
Mhm.
right? Because people can't afford to be able to do that kind of stuff. So there's huge opportunity right now in this housing market to be able to leverage it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
What
cool.
are the main reasons that people would come to you? I mean, I'm assuming they tell you to, take some equity out of their home and put it to some type of use. What are some of the common uses besides maybe an investment property?
So one of the most common ones is debt consolidation.
Oh,
Okay.
So yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of people have debt. And it's funny because people come to us and have debt and want to look at not only that, just a safe space to have a conversation. Like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know where to go. I've got this debt. What should I do? And so
Hmm.
when we talk to people about what's called refinancing, and it's pulling the equity from their existing home to be able to pay off their debt, they're like, well, you know what? I don't want to touch my mortgage. My mortgage is where it's at. And I've always been taught to pay down my mortgage, but I owe $80,000 in credit card, lines of credits, loans that, I'm looking at interest rates at 29.99%, 18%, 9%. But you know what? Maybe I'll just get a separate unsecured loan or something. Maybe I just won't do this. So it's kind of changing people's mindset, right?
Sure. Sure.
Like, debt is debt is debt is debt, right? So,
Mm.
and the thing is, what a lot of people don't know is that, heaven forbid something happens to you and you have unsecured debt, whoever your executor is going to be responsible for that credit.
Mm.
yeah.
So I've seen it. It's not fun,
No.
Mm.
right? It's
Mhm.
not fun for those people. So
Mhm.
when I have a little bit more education and be able to provide that to people, the reality of where unsecured debt, the reality of what it is,
Mhm.
being able to put it into your mortgage at a very low interest rate compared to what you're paying right now, your payments not only are going to come down substantially. Like, I've seen, like, like I can remember one of the ones specifically I did was $180,000 worth of debt. They were paying like $7,600 a month. Like, they were barely scraping by.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, you remember, you're paying interest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're not paying any principal down on that. So
Yeah.
consolidating that, I mean, the cash flow itself, I save them
Mm. Mhm.
Five.
$6,800.
Yeah, I was gonna say $5,000
Yeah,
a month, easy. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, they were used to making these high payments. So when we consolidate all into the mortgage, because they had
Mhm.
the equity, reduced their cash flow, so they saved like $5,800 a month. I started to slowly be able to increase their payments on their mortgage using privilege payments, which is
Mm.
principal right towards the mortgage. So guess what? Now you're paying off your debt just based on principal, not interest,
Mm.
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then showing people the reality of actually reducing their amortization, which is the life of the mortgage. So going from 30 to 25 to 20. Now you're showing people every day, changing their mindset that there's opportunity to be actually debt free,
Yeah.
Well,
right?
you use the term exit strategy, and I love that terminology because it's showing people that say this is not just affordability
Yeah.
in the sense of you can afford this. This
Mhm.
is we're going to get you from this point to this point over a period of 7 or 8 years. That if you just sat where you were, you're going to be on that road for 20 years, and
I
we're going
know.
to put you into a far better financial situation, whether that property be in Cabo or it be in Waterloo or anywhere it might be, simply by turning the equity of that investment into income back into yourself. And you throw that income back onto your principal of your mortgages and your loan, and you're paying down your term from 25, 20 to 10. That's brilliant. And
And
when you
it's
when you
it's
can
life
show
changing.
that to people, it's so powerful.
Oh, it is.
Yes.
It's life changing. Like, I have stories time and time again. People said to me, I couldn't breathe. You actually helped me breathe again.
Mm.
And, I really, I sit and reflect over the years. Like, it's a hard industry to be in. Like,
Mhm.
it really is. There's a lot of, you're dealing with a lot of people's emotions.
Mhm.
You got to
Yes.
remember, mortgage finance, like, okay, not mortgage financing itself is a huge trigger of trauma for people. Huge trigger. It's one of the number ones. So from our end, we have to make sure it's an open space for people to have conversation. There's no judgment, but we have to provide solutions because we're a lot of times people's last resort, right? So when you're helping people breathe again, it's a privilege, right, to be able to do that.
And when do you know as an agent that when you can get a client that begins to expose their finances to you, it changes your ability to serve them as an agent, because now you're not pursuing the pie in the sky. You're sitting with them and you're taking them through that process. And now you involve someone like Tracy who says, let's pull in Tracy to this conversation. Let's talk about the money you have. Let's talk about how we can spend it and where we can spend it. Let's talk about, okay, yeah, you've got $100,000 in credit card debts. Let's pull in Tracy. Let's wrap this into the mortgage. Let's go here with it. All of a sudden you have validated yourself as a professional.
Well, Rick, you probably remember on one of our shows not that long ago, you asked me some financial questions. And I said to you, Rick, I leave that to the experts. And I was speaking about people like Tracy, right? Like I don't answer some of those questions, the financing, the mortgage questions, because there are people that know a million times more about that space that I trust to handle and help clients with that. So,
but you need to know or understand it to be able to take them down that pathway and put them in touch with the right people. And as soon as an agent, you recognize someone says to you, no, we've got this property, it's worth $1 million, but we've got $100,000 in debt and credit card. And you can look at them and say, you know what, I might have a solution for you. Let's talk to Tracy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you have taken the trust they've put in you as a professional agent and said, wow, this person is not necessarily focused on me buying a house. They're focused on me being successful in my financial life.
Yes. Yes.
And it's, like Wendy and I've seen too, clients will, like, there's a couple of things here. They'll say certain things to the realtor and certain things to the finance side, and it's not necessarily the same. And you don't blame people, right? A lot of people don't even know what debt they owe because they're too scared to confront it. So that's something that we have to slowly on our end be able to have that conversation, because we're looking at their credit. Like, it's basically uncovering their skin, right? So we have to be able to be very mindful of that. So what perception on one end and reality of where people are at, a lot of times is very different. So we have to tread lightly and understand that partnership and have trust when you're dealing with the realtor and the financial side, right? So to be able to have that win for that client, it's super important, right? To have that synergy. And people, like, I keep on going back to trauma because I truly believe it. There's a lot of trauma with money, a lot of trauma, right? With money. And, we have to tread very lightly on that. But I always say to people, I can tell exactly where people are at in a 30-day bank statement.
Okay, interesting.
Right?
I'm sure you can.
And no one's bank statement and their finances is the same as the other. Yeah. So we have to try to fit people's mortgages in these tiers, but yet your financing isn't the same as the other, right? Let alone income. Like, let's talk about income, right? People are not just having one job anymore. They're having 2 or 3 jobs. They might be doing online platforms, making money. That's not recognized in the financial spectrum. That's when private money comes into. So Rick, when we were talking about private money, that's a big piece of it, because you're not getting, like, I can't use Bitcoin income and get you in an EA space on a mortgage right now. Sorry, it doesn't work in Canada.
And it's the same scenario if they have a rental in Mexico or anywhere. You can't count that rental income.
Can't use
do it.
Can't use it, right? And that's becoming more of a reality. Like, I think mortgage financing in Canada does, like, I think rules have to be adjusted, but it's slow, right? It's slow to change. So I think that private space is going to become bigger. And I also think alternative space will become bigger. The reality of higher interest rates to some extent is going to be a reality of where it is. But there's also the reality of, taking that money and leveraging it somewhere else to be able to make money. Like, it's interesting. I had a friend of mine went on a cruise. The last 10 days, she came back from Croatia. She went there for 10 days as a cruise around there. She says, I met a couple. She goes, they're not working anymore. They're retired and they're in their 30s because they have 2 investment properties that are 6 6-plex properties in different parts, one in Mexico and one in Europe, and they're making like 15,000 on each of these properties a month because they're Airbnbing it, and they're going around on their cruises, they're vacationing, like 35.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow. Yeah.
Rick, Wendy, you and like, when would we have ever
Uh-huh.
done something like that?
No.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
We're going to start working on it.
Right?
Yes. So if somebody's listening today, watching, listening, and we've piqued their curiosity, what's the first step? What do they do first?
They need to speak to a mortgage professional.
Okay.
100%. You have to really understand where your finances are.
Okay.
And really understand your income. A lot of people don't understand how they get paid. People don't even understand, like, people think they're full-time, but they might actually be contract full-time. So it's really having a mortgage professional take a look at your whole documents, everything, and look at your credit and educate you and look at your long and short-term goals, right? So that we can really provide that financial roadmap to where you need to go. And then we can bring in the realtor to say, okay, now this is where the client's at. Let's now work on that solution in terms of being able to find that property for them.
Okay. And at the initial phase, to have that initial meeting with you or someone on your team, there's no cost involved in that initial phase. Because that's another thing that I think people would probably hold back and think, well, could be really expensive to meet with somebody.
Yeah.
No, they can start that process and see before they're ever going to have to pay anything out, right? And what's the best way for people to get a hold of you or your team, Tracy?
Well, if you want to look us up on the website, it's valkofinancial.ca. There's a drop-down menu there, and you can just put your name and email address, and we'll connect with you right away. We have a client care coordinator. I'm very active on social media, as you know, so you can always reach out to. My name's Tracy Valko, but there's also a Valko Financial platform on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. My email is tracy@valkofinancial.ca. You name it, I'm out there. Valko's not really a popular name, so you can't really miss it.
Yes, and you're very quick to reply.
Yeah.
We'll definitely put a link in below here somehow, some way, however that all works. I'm sure Wendy will figure that out.
Yeah,
we
Get a
will.
link to you.
And we also, Rick and I, if people want to reach us, we have appointment links in the show description. So if people want to book a call and have a conversation about anything real estate related, or where to get the best tacos, where the closest Tim Hortons is, anything like that. Thank you so much for your time today. I suspect, we may have you back down the road to just talk about different things. I can tell already that we've touched like the tip of the iceberg here. And I know there's just so much more. So thank you so much for your time. Rick?
Thank you, Tracy. Very much appreciated meeting you. And yes, come to Cabo and we'll go golf.
Yeah, 100%. I got to golf out there. Come on.
Absolutely.